So they come up and I get them a drink and I say to Amanda, I'm like, I'm really proud of the work you've done. I think that you've just been spent really 3 great years here, and I want to offer you Pity Sing in the Mikado and something in Lysistrata. And she goes, "Oh, really, fool?" And I went, "Yeah, because I think you've worked really hard, and I think you've earned it." "Oh, really, fool?" And Megan goes, "I don't think that's the proper thing to say to a general director who's offering you a job." And she said, "No, Austin Powers. I thought I was killing it." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
First of all, it's not Austin Powers. It's
What
Happy
is it?
Gilmore. Get the reference correct. Secondly, you didn't even do the inflection. It's, "Oh, really, fool?" It's not, you gotta really go with it here. It's not. So again, in my mind, it was really killing it. I thought I was like at the top of my game until I looked and
Oh
saw.
my gosh, that's amazing.
Did she just call me a fool?
Yeah, I was like, why is she doing that? She just did it again.
Like, I'm about to take that away.
There's this guy that we, at least the three of us here, have all owed quite a bit to the artist that we have become. Darren has had an influence on all three of us. I was never a pumpkin. I was a late bloomer. So I encountered Darren late in the game. But throughout the time that I worked at Fort Worth Opera and now working with Seagle, I've seen so many lives that Darren's touched, and the way that sort of his influence has manifested itself in different ways throughout the business and different careers. And you two folks, I mean, it's a great example of the sort of range of influence, because we have Jack who's tenor, working singer in the business. Got a little bit. Some folks have heard of him. I don't know if how about him. And then Amanda, who's gone the route that Darren went, which is from singer to administrator. And so I really wanted to have you guys on just to talk about that and how that has manifested itself in your life and the connection that we all have to, the opera cowboy.
I still have that hat.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to first meet Darren back in 2008. I had gone to grad school. I had gone to undergrad and done music education as my major. And then I worked for a few years in between that and my master's and decided I wanted to go back and actually do the voice performance thing. Grad school was difficult for me because there are a lot of people who want to do the grad school voice thing. And I was also a little bit of a late bloomer in that respect versus some of my colleagues who, quote unquote, knew what they wanted to do. So that was a little nerve-wracking. But anyway, so fast forward 2008, I auditioned for Seagle. Did not think I would get in, but did. Thought it was a joke, but it was not, and I was thrilled. I decided to go for 2008. Did my first Witch and Hansel and Gretel. Probably looked more like a cardboard figure because I was so stuck in my body.
Stand up, stand up. I kept saying, stand up.
But that thus began my journey. I feel like working at Seagle, working with Darren, working with everybody there truly allowed me to open myself up and be the artist that I wanted to be because I was safe to do so while at Seagle. And I feel like one of the biggest things at Seagle was everybody felt that safety. You are there, everybody loves you, they want you to do nothing but succeed. There is not this form of jealousy or it's just all about successes that everybody can have. So much so that my first year, I just awoke. I feel like I was awoken as an artist. I felt like I needed to go back. So I went back for 2 more seasons and really learned, again, how to be the artist that I wanted to be, which was, I can't even tell you how huge of a transformation that was for me mentally. From there, I got to know Darren more because he hired me down at Fort Worth Opera to go perform there. That was my first main stage performance, which was amazing. Got to be a young artist down there and work for Fort Worth Opera. I just felt like I was always supported by Darren, by everybody. I could always go to them with any question. Fast forward a couple years, I had done the young artist thing. I was feeling the stress. I was living in New York trying to do the audition circuit, was not loving it. And I feel like
why?
What?
The audition circuit, that's the best part of this business, isn't
it?
It's great.
Crashing on couches.
Yeah. Smelling the flop sweat of NOLA Studios.
But yeah, so
Ooh, cat
I was
piss.
just really contemplating life, and Darren showed up again and gave me a call out of the blue and said, "Hey, I know that you've done administration in your past life or in your other lives, and I think that you'd be a fantastic fit down here at Fort Worth Opera as a company manager." And it hit right at the right time that I was like, you know what? I think you're right. I think that would be a great choice for me.
I also said, can you be here in 2 weeks? Because the festival starts in 2 weeks. So she had to get in a car and drive to Fort Worth. And like she lived with Jeff and Rhonda because she had no time to even find a place to live.
I did.
That's a path that Darren has facilitated for quite a few people, from singer to administrator, right, Darren?
Absolutely. And
well, I remember when Amanda she was in Fort Worth in the fall doing an education thing, I think, for the symphony. And we all went out to dinner, and I said, I don't want to take anything away from your singing career, but if at some point in the future an admin job comes up that I think you'd be suited for, do you want me to call you or do you not want me to call you? And she said, I think I'd like you to call. Yeah. And it literally was 6 months later, like on May 1st or like 2 weeks before rehearsal, I'm like, hi, I need a company manager. You need to start as soon as you can get here.
Yeah.
Darren, why do you think it is that so many singers, why do you think singers are so well suited for a job in administration? Because I've seen it happen a lot, and why would that path be one that's
think of what we do as singers already. We multitask, so we can sing, multi different languages. I had 60 roles in my head that I could just roll out and sing. We have to market ourselves. We have to be development people and figure out the finances. We're finance people. Everything about a singing career is made for almost any other thing other than maybe a scientist or something. But when you're looking at arts administration, we already do all that. And I wanted to go, I was really touched that Amanda talked about feeling safe here, because what we say the very first day, we have a big company meeting and we, tell them to not put stuff in the toilet and all the stuff that here's where the trash goes and all that stuff. But the most important thing is I said, first of all, congratulations, you all made it. So you're here. So we don't need to be jealous. You're all here.
You got the job.
I'm going to promise you 2 things. This is your place to take risks, because when you fall down, we're going to pick you up and love you and help you do that better. There's not going to be any judgment about whether it was right or wrong or anything. Take those risks. And the second promise we will make for you, every person in this room, faculty member in this room, that we will be here for you for as long as we are breathing air. We're always going to be there. And I think just that very first day, when everybody goes, okay, I'm here. I have the freedom to become the artist that I want to be. And we have let faculty members go a long time ago in the past. We're all about their own resume building. If you're a faculty member and you're not here, and every waking moment you're not thinking about what's good for those 32 people, you don't belong here. And I love it when a voice, like Stephen Lessman will be teaching a voice lesson. He'll go, you know what? Byron Jones spent years in France and he's fluent in French. And I bet if you took that French aria to him, he'd really be able to take that to the next level. So none of our faculty members are, guarding their territory. We're all about each other.
Knowledge guardians, I call them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that you said something there that I found very resonant with my own experience. When I first came to Fort Worth Opera that summer, when we did Dead Man and Carmen and all that stuff, it wasn't about the risk taking, because that was kind of what I liked to do even then. But I never felt comfortable in the opera business until I came to Fort Worth Opera, because it didn't seem like people thought the way I thought about opera and the way it could be done. And I just thought the thoughts that were in my head were just sort of like, crazy things that no one really thought of. When I came to Fort Worth, it was like there was this guy that was already doing all the things that I thought opera should be doing. And it sent me into sort of a crazy space for 4 or 5 years, because I was like, it's possible. Come on, come with us. Let's go. Revolution. And then everybody was like, you got to calm the fuck down. This is... like, please.
And we're at Lysistrata all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So it was that feeling of like, I wasn't a pumpkin, but the feeling of coming home to a place where I felt comfortable and I could take those kind of risks, because people were thinking the way I was thinking, and the thoughts I had weren't being knocked down as crazy and out there.
I'm going to let Jack talk, but I remember when Jack was making his big debut in Santa Fe in Italian Girl in Algiers. And I got an email like after the first rehearsal. They said, hey, I sure am glad you told me to learn that aria when I was at Seagle. And B, thank you for waking all our asses up at 9 o'clock and making us sing, because we have to do that now.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the truth. That's the truth.
Well, Jack, how did you land in Seagle, and how did that manifest itself in your?
So I was
career
down
life?
at University of Oklahoma for my undergrad, and I think I remember actually seeing the Seagle Music Colony little poster on the bulletin board, to go audition and everything, and there were auditions in Fort Worth. So I was like, that's easy. I can drive down there. This was actually going to be my first audition outside of school. And I was totally like and maybe I still am, but I was like an extremely awkward performer per se. I come from like the Midwest, Minnesota, where like if you make any sort of gestures with your hand, like people are like, that's kind of like a lot. So like I was not a performer at all. I was like a Minnesota choir boy,
Yep.
But I had been studying voice now for 2 years, and I was like, okay, I think I can go try this out. And I saw that they were doing Don Giovanni in 2012 and Sweeney Todd. So I said, okay, I'm going to go down there. I'd just done Don Ottavio, which was my first operatic role at like 19 years old, and it was terrible. But I was like, this is perfect. I can go down and sing Il Mio Tesoro, and then I'll sing Joanna for I'll bring those two. I think we maybe only had to bring two
Yeah.
for the audition. So I brought those down, drove down to Fort Worth. I remember the room. I mean, I literally remember it all perfectly. With all the auditions I've done now, it's just like, I remember walking through these doors. There's like an all white room, Darren and Tony just sitting at the table. Like, I mean, I was so nervous. And I went in there, sang Il Mio Tesoro, probably like a C- Il Mio Tesoro. And then Joanna, I like did a little bit of musical theater, a little bit of belty stuff. I was like,
Did you put some straight tone in there? Did you go,
I put a little
Joanna?
bit of straight tone. It's probably like a half step under. And I just remember like right after I got done, just feeling like, wow, these guys are like really nice. You were just so welcoming in the room, and like it wasn't what I was expecting at all. I think I'd done maybe a couple auditions at OU and like obviously my college auditions, but like getting done and immediately being asked questions that were like, so what else do you sing? What do you tell us about yourself? And I just felt so at ease after that.
I did remember that was remarkable to me too.
Yeah,
because it took Darren and I forever to hook up for an audition because I kept getting sick, and I had to stop once.
Oh, really?
And I thought, oh man, well, I forgot what I was singing, but I was just not doing well, and I had to stop and be like, I can't.
That was in New York. Yeah, you're like, I don't want to sing like this for you, and you just like was like,
oh, you did it.
I was like, I'm out of here.
I'm done.
But like I did notice, like he was so friendly about it. He was like, hey man, don't worry, next time we'll get it. And I was expecting them to be like, well, done, And then when we finally did get to sing, the audition was much more like a conversation and almost like a job interview, and not like, this one, like, let's see what you can do. And if you don't do it perfect.
Well, when we actually got together, that was, you sang for me right before, you sang for me early in 2009, before Dead Man. And I remember you finished singing and I was like, I want to hire you right now. I don't want to insult you, but all I've got left is Morales and the Motorcycle Cop. So if you'll come sing Morales and the Motorcycle Cop, I will bring you to Fort. I want to hire you. Yeah. And then Jake Heggie was in the audience and he goes, that is the best motorcycle cop in the entire world.
That's great.
So Jack, when he his first season, so he was so good at his music theater stuff that he got the Broadway show, The Review, Hooray for Hollywood, and Tobias Rag.
That's right.
But that season, his first year was Michael Adams, him, Carrie Ann Ottavio, Vanessa Becerra, Wesley Jen. I mean,
Eric
like
Faring.
Eric Faring.
It's Matt White, which by the way, he just posted a recording of Rigoletto. You gotta look that up. Whoa.
It was and Amanda's years weren't any slouches either. There are just so many that have come out of over the years, and even the ones that Wesley's having this great career. Wesley Jenkins having this great career as a fundraiser. Amanda's second in charge of an opera company now, and Jack's tearing the world up. But I remember the very first thing each one of them did, and especially because Amanda was so timid, I went to her first staging rehearsal of The Witch, and she was like, "Hey, I was like, stand up, you're the witch.
Hey,
It may be called Handsome Gretel, but you're the star."
There was a tad bit of anxiety going on when I also knew that was your signature role.
Oh, right. That's right.
Fair. That's fair.
Literally, he's coming in and I'm like, oh, geez, it's his signature role. And so then I would just freeze up and become this like...
Is it normal? Is it normal for him to wear the costume in the rehearsals?
Yeah.
It's weird. I feel really intimidated.
I really did pull her aside and go, you know what? Don't tell the others this. They may call it Hansel and Gretel, but it's your show.
Yeah.
Everybody's waiting on Witch. They don't care about those two kids.
Yeah, those kids are worth the time.
And I don't. You probably know this. I mean, the reason this place is so special to me is this is where I started too. In 1980, I was the singer here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's talk about that, Darren, because you've had a long relationship with the colony. And
It's but back, Mr. Seagle taught in Trinity University in San Antonio, and I was in the Houston Opera Chorus, and a lot of the people, I would think like 5 people in the chorus were also coming to Seagle that summer, and a friend of mine, Keith Gates, said, you should come, and I sang for Mr. Seagle, and he gave me $1,000 scholarship, and I think it cost $1,200 to come here that year, and it was much more teachers that brought their singers here. So there were like pods of Eunice Vickery students, so it wasn't really career prep back then. It was 6 weeks long, and we would do 2 musicals and 1 opera, and you didn't know what you were doing when you got here. You came and you sang your Death by Aria audition, and the next morning they put up the cast for the shows. And the first show opened 8 days later. And
what?
Yes, 8 days later. And stupidly, when I became artistic director here in 1996, we continued to do that for a long time. It wasn't until we had this kid named Chris Rusu, who was from, I think he's Hungarian, or he's Romanian. And English was his 5th language. And he woke up the next morning and found out that he was doing not only the Musiklehrer in Ariadne, but he was also doing Tony in Most Happy Fella. And that opened 10 days later. And he sat in the front chair of the theater, and he just like, had these tears rolling down the front of his eyes going. So Chris is like saying, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. And Richard Kagi has this wonderful thing where he says, the first day, you just need to stay on the page. What we're going to do today is what we're going to do today. If you're already at performance or dress rehearsal, you're never going to make it. So we're going to structure each day where if you just stay on this page, we will get you there. And by God, that kid sang Tony 10 days later for performances and but that day, Richard said, you know what? We might think about pre-casting from now on. I was like, what a good idea.
That was a good idea.
Can you imagine like finding out the next morning you're going to do Albert Herring, and like, I mean, we had girls that were singing.
That would not have happened. That would not have happened in 30 days.
No.
Herring. No way.
Well, also David Gately directed that, so every single gesture was like.
And that was me coming in like hardly any stage experience. I'm just like, hey Sid.
Yeah, Gately has it mapped out. Yeah, you don't have to. It's great. He has
in my mouth. It was the double hands. Hey Sid.
We started doing like when you recognize really extraordinary talent. We really started planning for second years to come back. So when Jack was there and Eric Faring were there in 2012, I was like, I will do Albert Herring for you if you guys will come back. And then we'll cast everything. Yeah. And then I already knew from some of the second, we had a Miss Wadsworth, and we had Anna Bridgman. We knew who the Lady Bees were going to be. Amanda's 3rd year, I knew we were going to do Romeo and Juliet for her and for Haley Clark, who had been there the year before. They had been Tisby and Clorinda, Kevin Newell. So we then really started to structure, and we still do to this day, structure the next year's repertoire based on who's coming back. And another thing I love about our audience here is their understanding that we don't program anything for them. Mm. What is programmed is what is good for the artists. Yep. And there is no decision made with box office in mind.
Well, and they may not like it, but they come every time. It's funny. Every time they would always be like, well, that one year I really didn't like that one piece, but we still came to all of them. Like, it's a point of pride for everybody up there, which is awesome.
What's the space like? I know when I first went there, and I think people would be curious. Like, I walked in and I was like, this is the cutest damn thing I've ever seen in my life. It's like this, can you tell us about the stage and the theater you have there and how that's, what the kind of challenges that including the bats and everything?
We've done some upgrades, but it's really, the front part is over 200 years old, and it was a barn.
Yeah.
Where Mr. Seagle Oscar Seagle taught voice lessons. And then in the late 40s, early 50s, when John took over after Oscar died, they added the tube and the stage house. And what not many people know is that first year they built the stage house, that winter, it snowed on the roof and then iced over and thawed and snowed again, and the entire stage house fell in.
Whoa.
So that spring, a rich oil person and family came up to play bridge with Mr. Seagle and Mrs. Seagle on the White House. He said, I guess you're going to have to replace that theater. And he wrote him a check so they could rebuild the theater. And that's pretty much what we still have to this day.
That's the most Seagle story I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Deals made over a hand of bridge.
There you go.
Exactly. Didn't miss a season. And the kids, well, now that we have the Shames rehearsal studios, the kids really like singing in the rehearsal studio. They call it Darren's Box of Lies because everybody sounds awesome in the rehearsal studio.
It is the best.
It's got amazing acoustics.
Darren's Box of Lies.
I still use recordings, even though, I still, to this day, just because, those things, I don't really, but, if I go back and listen, it's like, wow, that space is like an incredible bathroom. Makes everyone sound like Pavarotti.
And if they have to sing in the theater, they're like, oh, man.
It's the complete opposite. Complete opposite.
Yeah.
It's great for the audience because the sound comes right over you. And there's challenges. There's 32 people in dressing rooms that were probably built for 2 people.
Yeah.
So we had to build a porch on the outside where everybody can be. You get to know each other really well.
I remember when I went there and saw a show and I had to pass through all that. And I was like, this is a reality show waiting to happen. Because, it was just this is the kind of thing you see on a Netflix movie about, something. It's like I just couldn't. It seemed like it was so full of life and energy, and there was this air of support and camaraderie and teamwork. And is that a value that you instill there, or is it something that sort of comes from the people you bring in, or is that a Seagle Colony value, that sort of support and camaraderie and companionship?
We try to instill it by demonstrating it from the faculty and by just being really supportive of them. And the proof to me is when I'll see a photograph taken in a pub in Germany, and there's 10 Seagle singers, none of whom were at Seagle at the same time.
Yeah. And
they've all found each other. And so I think it's a community. I think it's because we say it's safe. We love you. There's you're not going to make a mistake here. The only thing you're going to do that's going to upset me is A, be late, and B, don't be an asshole. Be a good colleague. And I just say, back when I was hiring, I will hire someone if I want somebody who's going to be a good colleague and a good performer. And if that's not the most famous singer for that, then that's fine. I don't need the most famous singer. I need the best person, because you're going to be being with our donors. You're going to be representing Seagle or whatever company. And so I just want good people. And to your point, Michael, we had a gala 3 years ago where a brand new couple came in, and they had heard the kids sing at the Sembrick Museum down in Bolton Landing. And after it, they're the ones that her husband had my dinner. They were bidding on it. He had it already for $3,600, and she overbid him for $4,000. He goes, we had it for $3,600. But she said, this is our first experience here. And I've been to 1,000 galas in my life. I have never been to a party where there were 200 people that were only about supporting these kids. She said, it is palpable. You can feel it the minute you walk in. That's all we're here for, is to raise money for this program for these kids. And that's crazy. Good.
Yeah.
And then when it's filtering out that, then what the kids are doing and what the donors are doing is just so evident.
I want to add on to that and just say also, I think yes, I think you pick the people that are good people, but I think that it's also established pretty early on that no matter whether you are the star or whether you're third tree on the left, everybody is there working together, not only on stage, but off stage. Everybody's got a job. And your job could be making lunch, making breakfast, making dinner, cleaning up after lunch, breakfast, or dinner. Or everybody had a job. And I think personally that adds a whole additional layer of responsibility for everybody. And you feel that from everybody. You know, you might be annoyed one day that you have to go do lunch prep or whatever, but you know that everybody else has their jobs too, and everybody's getting them done so that you all can have a fantastic experience together. And there's something to be said about that.
How was that dish room, Jack?
Oof, that thing would get so warm. Warm, stinky peanut noodle smell.
Peanut noodles!
But they're so good.
They're so good.
But yeah,
we are getting a brand new dishwasher that's being put in right now that doesn't use super hot water. It uses something else to sanitize the dishes. And we're getting a brand new oven, and we're getting a brand new venting system. So
wow.
Yay, it's all going to be new.
Well, can I get a part-time job just doing the dishes? Because
you can be the dishes coach.
I don't know if you heard, Darren. It's pretty rough out here. We're all looking for work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited that we're going to be able to have our 106th season this year. Not having the season last year was I haven't cried this much in my entire lifetime as I have this year. And just not going up on the hill in the summertime and just seeing no one there except buildings that we had to open so we're going to have 2 4-week sessions with half the singers each session. They're all going to be joining us virtually for 9:00 class, those that can make it, except for probably Robert, who lives in Hawaii. And so 9:00 in the morning is a little early for him.
Yeah.
And all the shows are going to be streamed, but we'll actually be able to be on campus singing with each other. And so that makes me so happy.
Yeah. I remember when I went to Central City this past summer to interview Emily Pulley and John and Brian, and walking around up there in the middle of the summer with nobody around, no chorus rehearsals, no coachings, nobody warming up in the top of the Teller House. It was absolutely surreal and I mean, heartbreaking, but like you realize what these organizations that set up in these far-flung places and that bring people in, and you sort of all camp up together and you work together and you throw in and when that's not there, these places almost seem like they're mourning for missing those people.
It's like a ghost town suddenly.
Yeah.
You guys have had disparate career paths, have gone different ways. Can you talk about maybe some stories, some things that happened to you when you were at Seagle that sort of formed the artist and administrator or artist / administrator that you are now, and sort of what about those core philosophies that you learned at Seagle have manifested themselves in your careers today? I
guess I can start with this one. One thing I learned early on at Seagle is you just cannot do beer pong all night and perform well the next day.
Hold on.
It's just not going to happen. And Darren, I'm 100% admitting to that happening too often in Librodo.
Librodo? Is that what you called it?
Librodo.
Librodo House. It actually was kind of funny because that was the first time, I think Seagle was the first time I was actually singing every single day. You know, like when I was in undergrad, I was at like a big state school. So I was like doing the opera thing, but I wasn't in the practice room every day. I wasn't like, you know, I didn't know what it really takes to like get the best you can possibly be at all times, you know, with singing. And at Seagle, it was like a big wake up call. I'm living with Michael Adams, who's like this complete, like, I wake up in the morning, I practice an hour, I go eat, I practice 2 hours, I go, and I was like, what? Like, what is that?
Michael does that, really?
Oh yeah, yeah. So like that's when I really realized like the dedication that it really takes. Like I was still kind of riding on just a little bit of like just natural high voice talent, like just being like, I can sing that because my voice just does that. But what I learned at Seagle was how to essentially to pace yourself in that type of stuff, because it's the same when you get like doing it in the real world. It's not like you're living in a cabin where everybody sings all the time, but sometimes depends where you are.
You're just you're in your room drinking alone.
Right. Or you're doing
I win again.
Yeah. But I just think that like I learned everybody knows their voice, and like I learned my voice those summers. I learned what works for me, what I need to do to be the freshest, the best, at the top of my game. And those were really pivotal summers for me.
Yeah, I agree. That is definitely, as you said that, I totally agree with you. You learn your limits because, as you said, everybody has different ones, and some people can definitely drink a lot of beer and still perform the next day. And right. Yeah, and you learn whether you are one of those people or, like me, you are not. So
it's good to learn. It's good to learn early on. It's good to learn. Good. That was early enough for me that I was like, okay, I can never be in that position of like being there in a really important audition or a really important performance it was that. It sounds kind of trivial, but that was important.
But there is something about like I remember when we went to Central City and weed had just become legal, and it was a question with the admin that they were like, "What do we do about this weed being legal?" And what they came up with was like, it's legal, and they're adults, so let them do what they want. And there is something about having that hands-off approach to, not coming down on people, because they are. You are in your 20s, or sometimes still in college. So, and I understand preserving, taking care of your voice and being healthy, but there is something about experiencing life and living and having fun and play, and how that manifests itself. So if you come down too hard on that stuff and you turn these people into automatons.
And Darren, I don't know if you ever had to, but like, we're all living on a hill. That parties are taking place. You never
went to them. I would never go to them.
No, I know, but you never overstepped. I never felt like we knew our limits because we also knew we had to show up. And it was on us. Like, I would have felt horrible if I suddenly sounded bad. I didn't need Darren to tell me, what were you doing last night? I would have felt bad enough if I didn't.
Yeah, it's embarrassing already. You've got that's nobody wants to be that person.
I've got to tell you this story, which is my favorite job offer story I ever made. So it's Amanda and Megan Dieter's third year. And I said, after rehearsal, I said, why don't you guys come up for a drink after rehearsal and visit with me? And so they're like, we got asked to go to the house.
It was a big deal.
And they were like hiding in the bushes so no one would see them like coming up to my house. And
we really were.
So they come up and I get them a drink and I say to Amanda, I'm like, I'm really proud of the work you've done. I think that you've just spent really 3 great years here. And I want to offer you Pity Sing in the Mikado and something in Lysistrata. And she goes, oh, really, fool? And I went, yeah, because I think you've worked really hard and I think you've earned it. Oh, really, fool? And Megan goes, I don't think that's the proper thing to say to a general director who's offering you a job. And she said, no, Austin Powers. I thought I was killing it. I'm like, what are you talking about?
First of all, it's not Austin Powers. It's Happy Gilmore. Get the reference correct. Secondly, you didn't even do the inflection. It's, oh, really, fool? It's not, you gotta really go with it here. It's not, So again, in my mind, it was really killing it. I thought I was like at the top of my game until I looked and saw.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Did she just call me a fool?
Yeah, I was like, why is she doing that? She did it again.
Like, I'm about to take that away.
I still got the job. I still got no, actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that was going to be my story, which really was more, I learned a lot at Seagle. Again, I learned confidence. That was one thing singing wise, but confidence in self. and confidence that I am a person, Darren's a person. He might be the general director of an opera company, but guess what? We're both on a hill hanging out for the summer. So I think one of the biggest things I learned that up at Seagle and have continued to learn throughout my career that has really worked out both artistically, but more so administratively, is that we're all people. We're trying to make connections with other people. You don't have to act like a weirdo when you're with somebody who has a certain level of fame versus what you have. You go there and Darren, you are like this figure, and you still are. But you're also a human that I can say, oh, really fool to, or we can have a laugh, or we can have fun. And if nothing else, that's actually solidified our relationship. Never did it push us away and say, oh, if anything, I had to explain myself. But then now it's become this fantastic story and joke that we tell. Because we were both human about it. I didn't suddenly turn into this, oh no, I said something weird to the general director. You have to learn that you're all going through this together, and everybody's trying to make the best decisions and be human with each other and laugh and have fun. And you don't have to act like you are this lowly singer and you're only talking to this person and all they can do is give you a job. No, you can have a wonderful relationship with them, and you never know where it's going to end up.
I'd like to back that up. Back that up with, that's exactly the way I felt. Because look at me now. I'm wearing overalls and a bluegrass band t-shirt. But
as you should be, Mike.
That's right. Legit. But I always sort of dressed like a hillbilly on acid, And I always was a very plain spoken person, and it did with a lot of administrators and impresarios and whatnot. Some of them it offended them greatly. And one thing I noticed about when I first started hanging out with Darren, and when we became friends over the years, is that he never held that against me, and that wasn't ever seen to him as a sign of disrespect. He appreciated plain talk and to be just spoken to like a regular person. And I never felt like there's a sense of hierarchy, like I'm crossing a boundary by speaking so frankly with somebody. I found that more often than not, he appreciated it and wanted you to speak plainly.
I think being a former artist, when you go back to that question about former artists becoming administrators, I think that's one of the big things. We've all been there. Mm-hmm. So we know it, we recognize it, and if anything, we celebrate it. We celebrate artists. We want them to be themselves. You don't want them to be an asshole. Don't be an asshole, but be yourself. Mm-hmm. Don't shut that part of yourself off. And I know that for me, I hugely appreciate that. And for Mike, I know you do as well. So
from the beginning of the festival, when we first started doing that, and even before that, probably when the day that the artists were going to arrive, or a couple of days before at staff meeting, I would say, remember, the artists are here to give us and our community their gifts. Our job is to completely support them in that. Our job is not to be above that. Our job is to make their lives so completely wonderful that all they have to think about is the art that they're going to create for us and our community. We do that here at Seagle, and it's what I believed from the day I first became an administrator. I sang too all over the place. And you could go into a company where the DNA was all about suppressing you. Or you could go into a place where, that's what I loved about working at Santa Fe all those years. They made it easy for me to just be a singer. My housing was taken care of. My car was taken care of. I had a dresser that I just had to worry about singing and doing my job. And there were other places where I didn't feel that freedom. So I always said, if I ever had my own company, that I was going to make it artist-centric. And that's why here at Seagle, as I said earlier, every decision's made is made for the artist, period.
We're all like, yep, that's accurate.
Yep. I mean, it is. It's true.
Except for my birthday when it's about me. And you already know that.
Very
well, true. Anytime you look at a place like a summer program or a summer festival, the stories that you get, I know some of my favorite stories about working in the business and all that stuff, they come from summer festivals. They come from those experiences because it is such an intense time. You're doing a lot of work in a very short amount of time. You play hard, you work hard. and that tends to inspire a lot of shenanigans and good times. So, what can you guys, Amanda and Jack, can you tell us some of your stories that maybe
Some
Darren
shenanigans
hadn't heard?
Yeah. Some of these shenanigans.
Because you're safe now. You can tell the truth. So can you tell us one of those stories?
I don't know. No, I mean, sure. My first year I was actually very timid on many levels and was just worried, so I didn't get involved in as many shenanigans, though I did get pulled in. I would say after that, my second and third year, Megan Dieter and myself became the co-chairs of events for Seagle
Shenanigans Committee.
Yes.
Shenanigans Committee. So we would be the ones who would say, "Hey, we're going to have a party at the Diva Den tonight. Bring the beer." We would be doing the beer pong. I guess my biggest shenanigan, which I'll say here, but you can't access it, luckily, is I think it was our third season. We had a party at the beginning of the season, and we came up with the theme called sexual distractions. And what it was we were playing beer pong, and Megan Dieter and I were on one team, and these two guys were on the other team. So we started to quote unquote sexually distract them, but the point was make it look as hideous as possible. So that became the theme for the year. And so in a hidden folder that nobody else has access to, I have a lot of pictures of sexual distractions from that year that people would just do after they had fun. There are a lot of good pictures out there.
I think one of the group pictures at the end when we did, you both insisted that we all have a group sexual distraction.
That is true. There is one. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It would be like that. It would be like,
just make it,
make it as hideous as possible.
The non-sex, like as asexual and non-attractive as possible.
Correct. That was the whole point. That was the whole point. Yeah.
That's good.
That was a good shenanigan.
It's actually a pretty good acting exercise.
So it was really
you're
good.
Always learning.
You are. And then you can see it afterwards.
Let's hear a couple of libretto stories, Joe.
Yeah.
Honestly,
libretto.
I'm literally sitting here just thinking through so many different shenanigans that I'm not sure. Some of them I'm not sure I can say in this platform that I go out on Facebook with everybody who would be in there.
Yeah, we don't want to get you canceled, Jack, so be careful.
Exactly. So,
you're a straight white man, dude. You're on thin ice, baby.
There were a lot of really, really fun stories like that. The Diva Den parties, the Libretto parties, the late night. Why am I forgetting the name of the room where you sound like a god?
Shames.
Oh, the Shames after dark parties. Like a lot of that. But I do have kind of a funny story that's less of a shenanigan, and at the time wasn't that funny. But there was our first summer. There was this flu bug that went around. Do you remember that?
Oh God, yeah.
Aaron, it was pretty bad, and it was just spreading like one person at a time, and someone would get really sick for 2 days. And I, of course, got this flu bug, and I think it was like the final dress rehearsal, or maybe the one right before that of Sweeney Todd. And so everybody was up. I was doing Toby and Sweeney Todd. And I, obviously I needed to stay behind that night. It was really bad fever, nauseous, everything like that. So I was staying at home, and I was just laying in my bed, but I could hear the rehearsals going on of Sweeney up at the theater. So I was kind of oh, that's kind of nice. I'll listen. And then all of a sudden, my stomach starts churning, and I'm like, ooh, this doesn't feel good. This is not going to be good. So I run to the bathroom, get really sick, and to the point where I'm in trouble sick. Fall into the floor, can't stand up, not hitting the toilet anymore, bad sick. And I'm laying on the ground, and I remember reaching up to open the window to literally see if anybody was walking around there, just be hey, because I didn't have my phone. There was no service. I couldn't call anyone.
Yeah.
And I remember opening the window. It was raining and lightning out. And all I heard was, sweat! And I'm just laying on the floor, like in my vomit, like drag myself into the shower and like turn it on until everybody got done with rehearsal and like found me in there just kind of with cold water pouring over me as I listened to like Sweeney chorus during all of that. It was kind of like a surreal experience, but it was a story I now like to tell.
One for the memory books.
Right, exactly.
Well, Darren, do you have one on these guys you can tell since we've been having story time?
Not really. I told one on Amanda. Jack, I always thought Jack behaved pretty well. I didn't know what was going on in libretto.
I was good at
they'd all ask, I mean, every party that anybody had, they'd all say, "Are you coming to the party?" And I'm like, no. And I finally said, if I come to the party, it's gonna change the dynamic. You go party and you be together and you bond. Those are your colleagues that you're going to be with for the rest of your life. And I'm going to go visit Uncle Tito up at my house.
All right. Well, I will tell one not on you, Darren, but on your lovely husband, because he would not come to the parties, but he would come. He would happen to know when the end of the parties were happening. In his mind, he just would know. I don't know, but somehow he would always be hidden somewhere. And you'd be walking back to the diva den or whatever, and he would jump out of the bushes and scare the crap out of you, because he just got a kick out of that.
Yes,
walking back.
Some of the best people in the business. From Flicka on down.
The diva den walk back to Libretto at like 2 a.m. was the scariest walk I've ever done in my entire life.
Pitch black.
It's just pitch black. You can't hear anything. And it was probably like a 7-minute walk, but you were just like.
And chiggers that can drain you dry. That's what I remember about that
it's
place.
The walk from the diva den to libretto that happens at 7:00 in the morning, which we call the walk of shame. That I always enjoyed watching.
Even when we were at Seagle, like the people, because Seagle had a range of, I mean, I think 19 my first year, and there were some people that were 30. And I remember thinking then, like, some of the people who were, 27, 28, that just kind of be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to go to the party. And then we would just be like, that's so lame. That's so lame. And now I'm just like, I get it. And actually, I went back to Seagle with a couple of friends that were there with me, with Keith. And we went back and, like, they were having a big party. I think it was 2 summers ago. We just went to visit. And we were like, yeah, this is going to be so fun. It's going to be like, how it was. And we're at the diva den. And they're like playing a beer pong. Keith and I were just both like, yeah, this is weird. Let's
I'm kind of sleepy. Are you sleepy? I'm sleepy.
Yeah, this is weird.
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on the show and talk. And I just wanted, so much of what you hear in the interviews and in the talks today are all about the pandemic and how terrible things are. And, while it is bad, it's not forever. And there was a time before that thing happened that we had a good time, we enjoyed it, and it's coming back. I know everybody wants to be gloom and doom, but it's coming back. And so I'm really thankful for a respite from the bad news marathon that tends to happen every day now. So I want to thank you all for coming on the show, and I want to especially thank Darren for the legacy that he has established there at Seagle, but just in our business period of safety and the idea that there are people out there that think about this business in a different way, that it's not Costco and Sam's Club opera. It's got a different feeling, and I really appreciate it, Darren. The influence you've had on my life is absolutely invaluable, and I can never thank you enough for it.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, really, fool?
Perfect.
I had to finish it.
He's still like, what is that, bro?
He's like, you still got to watch that movie.
I do.
I really do.
Good movie.
I do.
All right, you guys.
All right.
Thank y'all so much.
Everybody.
Hey, guys.